Hello and welcome to the show. It is I, the Belladorian, and today I'm going to tell you why and or how you should be playing a Guardian Druid in the Warlords of Draenor 6.1 patch. What is a Guardian Druid? A Guardian Druid is a specialisation of choice for all of you Druids out there who want to tank. You are in a very unique position as a Druid, because we're the only class that currently has 4 specialisations, and the 4th one just so happens to be Guardian. Why should you play a Guardian Druid? Well, a Guardian Druid's a bear. That's right, we're a bear. A very literal bear. If that doesn't tickle your fancy, then I don't know what will. If you're just starting out in the tanking world and you wish to find a class that is easy to learn whilst being easy to master, then you've come to the right place. Also, as an added bonus of being a Guardian Druid, the specialisation is heavily underappreciated and therefore is actually underrepresented, because there's not many Guardian Druids out there. I mean, there's not many tanks out there in the first place, but Guardian Druids are the lowest of them all. There are not many Guardian Druids out there, and it's simply, aside from being a bear, it's because your moves aren't exactly shiny. There's no flair with a Guardian Druid. There's no pulsing AoE. There's no shields flying out about the place. No. There's just you, your claws, and your face. What talent should you have? Talent choices are never set in stone. This was a choice that Blizzard had made. But however, some do appear to be better than others. In your tier 1, I would recommend having Wild Charge. This is simply a charge mechanic where you can close the gap between you and the enemy. This gives you a lot of mobility, and I personally feel that this talent outweighs the others. I would say an honourable mention to Feline Swiftness. If you're preferring more of a passive play and you want the passive movement increase, I know many of you may prefer this, and indeed it is usually more beneficial to have in a fight that, say, involves a lot of adds and you need to gather them all up really quickly. So charging to one single add won't do, but your standard movement speed being 15% faster, that would do better. So please, consider this talent when you're looking at the mechanics of the fight. Now in tier 2, this one is a personal preference. I personally prefer the passiveness of Ysera's Gift. This is simply heals you consistently throughout the fight, and without you having to do anything. It's not a great amount, but anything that makes the healer's life easier is going to be a good thing. Now, Cenarius Ward is also viable, however this is an activated ability, and to be honest, we have enough cooldowns without having to bring this one for the ride. If you master being a Guardian Druid, you may want to consider this one, as it does improve your survivability, but again, it's throwing another thing into your already quite full rotation combination of cooldowns and things like that, so you may not actually want to bring that along. Tier 3, again, is your own choice. Personally, I prefer Typhoon because it looks good, and as I've said before, we don't have much flair, and our class choice means that this is the only thing that we can do that really has any real sort of animation. It's a bit of a shame. It can also come in handy in some fights where you need to move some adds into a certain area. There's nothing quite like that in the Blackrock Foundry. I mean, there is the train fight, but that's not really needed. You can easily deal without it. In fact, I would forget it most of the time. Now, tier 4, your option here is Soul of the Forest. It increases your rage generation, and as a tank you need to have some in the bank just in case you need to generate a bit more threat, or for using frenzied regeneration, which is something I'll talk about at a later point in the video. Tier 5 is completely your own choice. I have Mighty Bash because there are some ads in the Blackrock Foundry, the ones that come to the mind are the ones in front of Gruul, where you have them jumping about and they won't sit still, so bash one of them, the big guy, and keep him locked down, just so it dies a little bit faster. Tier 6 is an interesting one. Tier 6 is Dream of Cenarius to me. That's the one I want. It gives you a fairly high chance to proc a free healing touch, which can be used in bear form. However, this comes with its own pros and cons. If you are late to the party and you cast healing touch after the proc is finished, you will come out of bear form to heal yourself. Now this causes you to be slapped in the face by a boss and humiliated by your raid, because bosses can 1 or 2 hit you when you're not in bear form, which isn't good. I therefore use a special macro for this. I'm going to post the macro in the description box below. It's over here. This macro will only cast Healing Touch when you have the proc, and if you don't, then it's not going to cast it and it's not going to pull you out of bear form. It's really important that you have this if you're going to use this talent. And tier 7 is really sad, because the other two sound so fun, but the only viable option is Pulverize. I'll go more into detail about this one in the rotation section of the video, because this completely defines how you're going to do your rotation and is just a necessity when you're tanking. Now, Glyphs. There's no real set in stone glyphs that you can have when you're playing a Guardian Druid. They don't really benefit you that much, in my opinion. I currently use a Glyph of Maul, which allows me to hit an additional target, therefore increasing my threat. Glyph of Stampede, so that I have the mobility for myself and the raid, and Glyph of Rebirth, because sometimes you might be the one that has to combat res. I mean, you shouldn't be in that position in a raid, but in a 5-man dungeon it can be useful, and you're quick to jumping. If you're quick to jumping back into bear form, then it's absolutely fine. It's not going to affect you that much. You just have to handle the global cooldown of that's going to take you like a second to do it all. Now, please note that there is another one that you can have, which is something that I haven't even got on my character because I don't feel it necessary, is Glyph of Survival Instincts. It's useful in some cases, but in general it's not really that useful. It turns your best cooldown that you have into a very meh cooldown, because it shortens the duration of it and shortens the cooldown. So you can do it more often, but for a shorter period of time. And sometimes, from what I've seen in the Blackrock Foundry, you need it up for as long as you can in quite a few instances. So I just stay away from that one. Our minor glyphs are completely irrelevant to gameplay. I would say, even though the elevator boss doesn't exist in Blackrock Foundry, Glyph of Grace is still worth having on your character, as it reduces falling damage even in bear form. For completeness, I have Glyph of Travel for a quick mount speed when I'm out and about for short distances. It's actually slightly slower than a mount, but there's no cast time, and if it's a really short duration that you're going to go, say I was going to travel to that building, I can just instantly hit it and run in. That's a lot quicker than waiting for my mount to turn up. So it's not really going to do anything special, but it does enough. And then I also have the Glyph of the Chameleon. Now, unfortunately, as people of the Druidic class have said for many a year, we really want to get some armour onto our creatures. But they can't do it. Whether it's it would take so long for them to animate it all, there's all sorts of issues that they've got with it. So, to counter it, they've given us the Glyph of Chameleon. So every time you turn into a bear, you turn into a different bear. It's literally just a different colouring. It would probably be nicer if it was a different actual physical bear, but currently this is what we have in the 6.1. Now, statistic priorities. It's really simple for a Guardian Druid. You have bonus armor, as all tanks really should. Then you've got mastery, versatility, multi-strike to 10% raid buffed, haste, then crit. There's no something is as good as another. That is the order. Please note that multi-strike after 10% when buffed isn't really useful because the 10% should be enough to keep up Ursa Major, which is a passive ability that increases your maximum health. Now, here we get to the fun of it. Rotations. As most classes have at the moment, you don't actually have a rotation, but more of a priority order. This is because you need to keep up some buffs and some debuffs, and the best way to do this is to follow the following priority system. Mangle is your go-to ability. As soon as you have it up, use it. Use it on cooldown. You need to use this to keep generating some rage, and you should note that Lacerate can actually reset the cooldown of Mangle. So keep an eye on it. It's not that long a cooldown, it's 5.6 seconds on this character, due to my haste and everything. But if it gets reset, you need to be able to see it and pop it straight away. Then you need to Lacerate. You need to get this to 3 stacks. This is essentially your spam ability, but you need to get it to 3 stacks, and then you're going to hit it with a Pulverize. Now, Pulverize is going to clear up those stacks. It's going to get rid of them and leave a dot for 12 seconds. That will reduce the damage that you take for 15%. Pretty decent. You need to keep up also Thrash. That's the lowest of your priority, is your little Thrash. Now you need to keep up Pulverize on the target, and that'll be there for 12 seconds. It's a good idea to track this with an add-on such as Power Auras or Tell Me When. There's another video on my channel where I show you it for my Balanced Druid. I have Power Auras on there and I explain it a little bit there. Go check that out if you want to go do that. And you should also do this for Thrash, because that lasts for 16 seconds. And you don't need to hit that all the time. Please note that you should only be using Maul when under the effect of Tooth and Claw. It's a little proc that will pop up. And it's also, Maul is also your Rage Dump ability. So if ever you're at maximum Rage and there's nothing really you can do with it, start slapping about with a Maul. Get rid of some of the Rage, just to increase a little bit of damage. It's not going to do much, but it's worthwhile having it there. Now, for multiple targets, this is actually where we have a bit of a problem, guys. Our AoE threat is probably the worst of all the tanks. However, that being said, if you do it correctly, you're not going to have any problems. You're just not going to have any problems against any DPS or healers. I say or healers because for some reason we find that our Druid healers in our raid, the amount of hots that they do generates so much threat to begin with. If you don't pick everything up, they could be the ones that are targeted. So you've got to pick up adds as soon as you can. Now your rotation for this is Thrash, and that's your spam ability now. You need to make sure that all the targets have it, and they have the bleed for the 16 seconds. Then you can pick a target, lacerate it to 3 stacks, and pulverize. Then after that, you mangle on cooldown to whichever one you have the lowest threat. So you're going to need to be tab targeting. So you're tab targeting a new mangle target. Now don't forget, with your glyph, you're going to increase the amount of targets that you're going to hit with this. You can also use Berserk, which is going to cause you to hit up to 3 targets. So that's good for when you're doing AoE, but it's not that necessary, especially in a 5-man dungeon. Now, cooldowns. Guardian Druids are the envy of everybody. This is because you have more cooldowns than you can count on your claws. And when I say that, I mean there are some that have charges, so you're going to be wanting to have that available. You have 1 reactionary cooldown and 3 mitigation cooldowns. Your reactionary one is Frenzied Regeneration. Frenzied Regeneration, it instantly converts up to 60 rage into health. Sounds good. This is useful if you have large amounts of rage but you're dropping low. Healing you is not just the healer's job. You should actively be making their life easier, and in turn, they'll be making your life easier. You then have your mitigation cooldowns. To begin with is Savage Defense, which increases your dodge chance by 45% for 6 seconds. You have 2 charges on that. Now, as it has a 12-second recharge, that means in theory you can keep it up a lot, but I would recommend that you should use it once every 12 seconds, leaving you slightly vulnerable for only 6 seconds, but it means that you have a spare one if you need it for an emergency. Now, you have Bark Skin. Bark Skin is a standard 20% damage reduction for 12 seconds for 1 minute. That's all it is. Use this when you know you're going to get hurt, but not substantial enough that it's going to need, say, Survival Instincts. Now, Survival Instincts, on the other hand, that's your big cooldown. That's a 2-minute recharge and reduces the damage that you take by 50%. That's an awful lot. It reduces the damage you're going to take by 50% for 6 seconds. And you have 2 charges on that. And again, I would say feel free to use one, but you need to keep one back for emergency. But if that emergency comes up, don't hold on to it thinking, oh, there could be something else that I need it for later. Just use it. Because not only do you have all these cooldowns, you need to remember, as a tank, you can always ask your healers for a cooldown. Healers will have something like a pain suppression or an iron bark. Something along those lines that will keep you alive even longer. So with this, you should have enough to, say, survive all of Orgorge's acid things and be absolutely fine, not having to worry about anything. And then, of course, the final cooldown, as I said before, Berserk, increasing the amount of targets that your Mangle's going to hit. And it's not going to have a cooldown, so you can hit that, spam Mangle, you're going to be hitting 3 targets. If you still tab target, if there's more than 3 targets, so that you can still make sure that everybody is being hit whilst keeping Thrash up, you're all good. And that's it, really. Now it's all about going out, getting your bear kitted up, and going into a dungeon, getting some gear, moving into some raiding environments which are very different to 5-man's, and just enjoy it. I know that I do. And if you enjoyed this guide, please like, comment, subscribe. Everybody says it, but it really does help to build, say, my confidence, and it allows me to want to put more of these videos up in the future. Thank you for watching. I've been the Belladorian.